In this video, we're going to show you how to play Dicey animals. Let's start with setup. Each player will choose one animal and put the player card in front of them. They'll also take the 11 animal cards matching their animal and put all of those together into one deck. All the animals not being played are put back in the box. So there shouldn't be any cards in the deck that don't match one of the animals in play. Each player is then given 2 6-sided dice, 2 8-sided dice, and 1 10-sided die. Then decide if you want to play a single hand and get the score for that hand, or if you want to play to a total number of points, or maybe a number of hands that you want to play and the highest score total for those hands wins. A hand will normally take 15 to 20 minutes, depending on the number of players, of course. If you're playing with 10 players, that might be a more lengthy hand. All right, so here's how to play a hand of Dicey animals. First of all, you're going to deal 7 cards to each player. You'll then take the remaining cards and place them in the center of the table. Before you start drafting cards, each player is going to roll their dice. You'll then put them on your player card without changing the faces of those dice. If you need a summary of the rules, you might want to put them off to the side so that you can use the back of your player card for the turn order. At any rate, you cannot change the faces of dice unless a card tells you to do so until the hand is over and you've already scored. So now that the dice have been rolled, we're ready to draft our first card. So you'll basically look at your cards and pick one and put it in front of you to start what will become a 5-card tableau with dice attached to them. Once you pick your card, you're going to attach a die to it, and then set the rest of your cards off to the side. Now we are ready to resolve our first card. To see who starts resolving cards first, you just flip the top of the deck, and whichever animal is shown on the card, which it looks like it's the moose, resolves their card first. So I'll resolve this card. When you're resolving a card, if the animal matches your own animal, you resolve the bottom text. Otherwise, you resolve the top text. Because I'm playing the moose, and this is a moose card, I get to resolve the bottom card text that says, trade the attached die for any other die. And when it says any other die, it doesn't mean any other die. So it doesn't have to be attached to another card. I can just take this 10 here and give that 1 to my friend the penguin over there. Resolution then goes clockwise. So we're going to resolve this card, which is a koala card, and it says animals on the loose. Now, since the koala doesn't match the penguin, we're going to resolve the top text. Each player gives their card for this turn and its attached die to the player on their right. So basically, this koala is going to come back, and I'm going to get to lose that 10 that I just stole. Now you'll notice, because of that, the koala didn't get to resolve a card, but they got a 10 towards points at the end of the game. So the penguin will then resolve a second card, and it matches, so the penguin gets to re-roll one of their dice. So they're just going to re-roll this and make it a 7. Once all cards have been resolved, you then pass your hand to the player to your left and draft your second card. You'll then flip to see who resolves first. In this case, it would be the koala. You resolve cards in clockwise order, and you keep doing this until all players have 5 cards in front of them with attached dice, and all 5 of the cards have been resolved for each player. You'll then go to final scoring. The end of a hand should look something like this. The 2 leftover cards in everybody's hand aren't needed, and they can be discarded at this point. Then each player will add up the sum total of their dice and any final scoring rules that apply to the cards in front of them. So in the penguin's case here, there are no final scoring cards, so you simply add up the dice for 17 points. We'll score the koala next with a sum total of 31 on the dice, plus they have a cage that says add 2 to your final score for each different type of animal that you have in play. There's a moose, there's a penguin, there's a koala. So that would be plus 6 for a total of 37 points. And then the moose had 25 on the dice, also had a cage, and 3 animals for a total of 31. So it looks like the koala ran away with this game. If you feel comfortable just trying it out, playing with the rules already explained, go ahead and stop the video now. At this point, I'm going to go through each one of the cards and explain what they mean. So first we have the help card. Help the and then an animal name. Basically what you'll do is you'll add 1 to whichever animal that's stating, add 1 to one of their dice, and then add 2 to one of your dice for being such a good Samaritan. If this is your animal, you simply just add 1 to the die attached to this card. And I think it goes without saying that you cannot take a die above the numbers on its faces nor below. So for a 6-sided die, you can only have a 1 to 6. You couldn't add 1 if this was already a 6. Reroll. Reroll any 2 dice. And that means any 2 dice on the table, including dice that are still unassigned to other cards. If this is your animal, you simply re-roll one of your own dice. The cage. Add 2 to your final score for each different type of animal that you have in play. Or if this is your own animal, add 2 to your final score for each of your own animal that you have in play. So you can either try to get a bunch of different animals or collect your own for bonus points. The fight card. All players re-roll one of their dice. The players with the highest roll may add 2 to any die. So if 2 players are tied, even though they rolled different types of dice, like let's say somebody rolled a d10, somebody else rolled a d8, but they were both 5s and they were the highest dice, both of those players would get to add 2 to one of their dice. If this is your animal, you can use the bully effect at the bottom of the card and decrease 3 from one of an opponent's dice. Again, you cannot decrease it below a 1. Animals on the loose. Each player gives their card for this turn and its attached die to the player to their right. So for example, if this is this turn's card, it would go to the player to the right, and likewise their card for this turn would go to the right, and their card for this turn would go to the right, switching the cards and their attached dice around without changing any faces of dice. If this is your own animal, it's the same as above, except you get to choose the direction, left or right, around the table. Trade. Trade this card and its die for any other card in play and its attached die. If this is your own animal, you simply add 1 to all of your dice. The bonus card. Add 2 to one of your dice. If this is your own animal, you may ignore fight or bully effects from the fight card for the rest of the hand. Doubles. If any of your dice match, you get to add 4 to your final score. Now, even if you have 3 of a kind, 4 of a kind, 2 pair, and you have a bunch of different combinations, it doesn't matter. You only get to add 4 to your final score. Unless this is your animal. And then, for each set of dice, you get to add the corresponding values at the bottom of the card. So, for example, if you have 2 dice that match, you get a plus 6. If you have a set of 3 dice that match, you get plus 10. If you have 4 dice, 4 of a kind, you get plus 15. And if you have all 5 dice matching, you get plus 20. You can also do this in combinations. Let's say you have 2 2s and 2 4s. You would be able to say, I have 2 dice that match and another 2 dice that match for 12 points, 6 and 6. The hide card. Turn one resolved card face down. That card's attached die still counts for final scoring, but you've basically nullified that card. So for example, you could take this cage card that gives me bonus points at the end of the hand, turn it face down, and I only get to use the number on the die. If this is your own animal, you simply add 5 points to your final score instead of turning a card face down. The steal card. You will steal from whichever animal is on the card. So let's say I had the penguin steal card, I could steal any of the penguin's dice and swap it for the attached die on my card. If it's your own animal, you get to trade the attached die for any die on the table. And lastly, the Katya card. Trade this card for one of the top 2 cards of the discard and resolve that new card. And you'll just move your attached die from this card to that card without changing its face. If this is your own animal, It's the same, except you get to trade this card for any card in the discard pile and resolve that card. Towards the end of the game, the discard pile might have a lot of cards in it, so please be wary of holding up the game as you choose your card. And that is all of the cards in Dicey Animals, and I hope that you enjoy this game with many of your friends.